The alien queen stared in shock. This human had carried her back from the edge of death. The storm whipped across the jagged cliffs of Varales 7, a planet at the very edge of human-explored space. Lightning danced across the black clouds, casting brief, eerie light on the rocky surface below. Captain Elias Harper gritted his teeth, fighting against the cold wind that cut through his suit like a knife. Every step was a battle, but he had no choice. Somewhere out there, the alien queen was in danger, and he was the only one who could reach her. Harper's exploration team had not planned to meet her. They had come to Varales 7 searching for mineral deposits and signs of life, nothing more. But when their scanners had detected the alien presence, the humans had been unprepared. The first encounter had turned violent, not by choice but by instinct. Creatures unlike any Harper had seen before had swarmed the Queen's convoy. Her guards had been skilled and powerful, but the storm and the beasts had taken them by surprise. And then Harper saw her. She lay on the rocky ground, her golden exoskeleton cracked and darkened with alien blood. Her head was tilted, and her multifaceted eyes fluttered weakly. She was breathing, but barely. Harper's heart pounded. 100 human warnings screamed in his mind. This is an alien, unknown, possibly dangerous. Leave her. Retreat. But instinct won over fear. He ran toward her, ignoring the roar of the storm and the distant cries of creatures still prowling the cliffs. The Queen stirred as he approached, opening her eyes for a moment. Harper could see the shock there, not just pain but disbelief. No human had ever come this close. She was used to power, to guards and rituals, to obedience. And now here was one standing over her, unarmed, offering help. He knelt beside her and carefully lifted her into his arms. The Queen's limbs were heavy, her body frail compared to the statuesque strength she usually commanded. Harper felt the weight of responsibility like never before. He could not fail. One misstep, one slip on these wet rocks, and both of them would die. The storm seemed to grow wilder as he climbed. Lightning flashed, illuminating the jagged terrain and the alien flora that pulsed faintly in the darkness. Harper used the bioluminescent plants to guide his path, stepping only where the ground seemed stable. Every second was a gamble, but he never faltered. He whispered softly, not because she could understand him, but because his own heart needed grounding. "You'll be safe," he said. "I've got you." The Queen's breathing grew shallow and Harper's heart leapt. He needed shelter, some place out of the storm. His eyes scanned the horizon, and he saw a small cave, partially hidden behind a cluster of jagged rocks. It wasn't much, but it would keep them out of the wind and rain. He reached the cave after what felt like hours. He laid the Queen down gently on the cold, wet ground, careful not to jostle her too much. Her eyes fluttered open briefly, and she focused on him. Harper could not read her expression. Alien emotions were difficult, but he sensed surprise, confusion, and maybe a hint of gratitude. Harper set to work. He tore pieces from his jacket to make a soft layer for her to lie on, then used his survival kit to purify some alien water he had collected from a nearby stream. The Queen's breathing was weak, but she took it in, small sips that made Harper hopeful. He knew she would not last long if she did not receive immediate care. "Hang on," he whispered, more to himself than to her. "You're not dying today." The alien Queen tried to speak, but only a faint whisper came out, almost a sound of disbelief. Harper couldn't understand the words, but the emotion was clear. She was shocked. She had seen countless humans in her life, from traders and explorers to spies, but none had ever risked their life for her. None had carried her from death's edge. Hours passed. The storm outside raged on, but inside the cave, Harper worked tirelessly. He used his basic medical knowledge, adjusting alien anatomy with careful observation. He cleaned wounds, applied antiseptic, and stabilized broken limbs as best as he could. Every time he paused, he looked at her, noting subtle changes, breath deepening, eyes blinking more steadily. At one point, the Queen's eyes opened wide again. Harper froze, unsure what she might do. She lifted a clawed hand weakly and touched his arm, an almost imperceptible gesture, yet one filled with meaning. It was the first time she had reached out, not in threat or command but in recognition. Harper nodded, offering a reassuring smile. "You're going to be okay," he said, trying to sound confident though doubt gnawed at him. "I won't let anything happen to you." As the night wore on, Harper remained alert. Creatures from the cliffs prowled nearby, curious but hesitant to enter the cave. Harper's instincts kept them at bay, using fire, sound, and strategic movements. He thought about his crew, wondering if they would come looking for him soon. He hoped they would, but he also knew that until she was stable, moving her again would be deadly. The Queen's breathing had slowed, becoming steady but shallow. Harper could see a faint glow emanating from her body, part of her alien biology, part of her life force. He marveled at it, wondering how such a being could be both fragile and immensely powerful. Suddenly, the storm's intensity lessened. Harper stepped outside, feeling the rains drizzle, and looked up at the stars peeking through the clouds. For a brief moment, the world seemed still, and Harper felt a strange connection to everything: the storm, the alien life, the fragile Queen who now depended on him. Inside the cave, the Queen stirred again. This time her eyes stayed open longer, watching Harper with focused intensity. Harper caught the look and understood. She knew he had saved her life. There was no language between them, no shared culture, yet she understood. A bond had begun, strange, tentative, but real. Harper smiled, feeling a quiet satisfaction. He had risked everything, crossed boundaries no human had before, and in return he had gained the trust of one of the galaxy's most powerful beings. He did not know what would happen next, whether her guards would forgive him, whether her people would see him as a hero or a threat. But he knew one thing: he had acted with courage, and that courage had made a difference. The night continued, and Harper stayed by her side, watching over her as she rested. He thought about the stories he would tell later, stories not of victory in battle or conquest, but of humanity's ability to care, to act bravely, and to rise to challenges no one else dared face. In the faint glow of the Queen's body, Harper felt a sense of hope. Perhaps humans were not just explorers or conquerors. They could be saviors, friends, allies. Perhaps this moment, small as it seemed in the vast universe, was the beginning of something larger. The Queen's eyes slowly closed, resting at last, and Harper allowed himself a moment of relief. Outside, the storm had calmed, leaving only the sound of wind and distant waves crashing against the cliffs. Harper sat beside her, alert, ready, and determined. Whatever came next, he would face it. For now, he had kept her alive, and that was enough. And somewhere deep within her alien mind, the Queen understood something profound. Humans were not weak. They were unpredictable, resourceful, and unafraid. And this human, Captain Elias Harper, had proven it. The first light of Varali's 7 twin suns filtered through the jagged cave entrance, casting warm streaks across the rough floor. Captain Elias Harper stirred, careful not to wake the alien Queen lying beside him. Her breathing was steady now, but she remained unconscious. Harper had spent the night watching over her, using whatever knowledge he had about alien physiology to stabilize her. Outside, the wind had calmed, leaving only the soft rustle of alien flora. Harper stepped carefully among the glowing plants, scanning the rocky terrain for any signs of threats. Varali's 7 was still dangerous. Predators lurked in the shadows, and the Queen's guards, who had not been seen since the storm, might return, angry, suspicious, or worse. But for the first time since he had found her, Harper allowed himself a small sense of hope. He returned to the Queen, carrying water purified from the stream and a small meal from his supplies. Her eyes opened slowly, golden irises catching the light. Harper froze for a moment, unsure how she would react. But the Queen did not strike or hiss. Instead, she simply stared at him. The The storm, the danger, the pain, all of it reflected in her gaze. And then slowly she made a sound, a soft click, almost like a question. Harper smiled gently. "You're awake," he said. "Don't worry, you're safe." The Queen's eyes narrowed, studying him as though trying to understand the human before her. She moved her hand slightly, not threateningly, but in a gesture of caution. Harper leaned forward carefully, offering her water. She took it with delicate, cautious movements, as if testing whether he could be trusted. Hours passed in careful silence. Harper tended to her wounds, cleaning and bandaging with gentle precision. He realized something important. Trust would not come quickly. The Queen had been raised in a culture of strength and power, not kindness. She had never been shown mercy or compassion from someone outside her species. But Harper had to try, and he did so with patience. Every action was deliberate, every word measured. Finally, she spoke again, her voice a low hum, strange and musical. Harper could not understand the words, but he could feel the meaning, curiosity and a faint acknowledgement of his efforts. He nodded, replying in gestures. He had learned early on that body language and simple actions often spoke louder than words. As the Queen regained strength, Harper began planning the next step. They could not stay in the cave forever. Her guards might return, and hostile creatures could strike at any moment. They needed a safer location, somewhere she could recover fully and where Harper could continue helping her without immediate threat. The solution came unexpectedly. Harper noticed a faint, greenish glow coming from a nearby valley, just beyond the cliff edge. He had seen similar flora while scouting the area the day before. These plants were known for their medicinal properties among the locals, though he had only a rough understanding of their effects. It was a risk, but one he had to take. "Can you move?" he asked gently. The Queen tilted her head slightly, then tried to lift herself. Harper moved closer, supporting her with both arms. The movement was slow and careful. She was still fragile, but she did not resist. Harper guided her down the slope, keeping an eye on the terrain and listening for any approaching danger. By the time they reached the valley, the Queen's strength had improved enough to allow her to walk short distances with Harper's support. The valley was a hidden oasis, glowing with soft light from thousands of bioluminescent plants. Strange flowers opened to the sun, releasing faint, soothing scents. Harper set the Queen down carefully, allowing her to rest while he gathered samples of plants that might help her heal further. As he worked, Harper felt the weight of the situation more than ever. He was a human in a foreign world with the life of one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy in his hands. Any mistake could be fatal. Yet he also felt something stronger, a quiet confidence, the sense that humans were capable of more than anyone expected. He could think, adapt, and act. He could save lives even in the most impossible situations. The Queen watched him closely, her eyes following every movement. There was no anger now, no hostility, only observation and perhaps a growing understanding. Harper knew that trust would take time, but even the smallest gestures could begin to build a bridge. He offered her a portion of the purified water and some edible plants, showing her how to consume them safely. She took them slowly, eyes never leaving him. Later, as the sun climbed higher, Harper sat beside the Queen, keeping her company. She remained quiet, but Harper did not mind. He spoke softly about his world, about humans and their ways, not to teach, but to share. Perhaps she did not understand the words, but she could sense the tone, the calm confidence and the care in his voice. Suddenly, a noise echoed from the cliffs above. Harper stiffened, signaling the Queen to stay down. High above, figures moved cautiously among the rocks, her guards. Their armor glinted in the sunlight, and Harper could see the suspicion in their movements. They had arrived not to attack immediately, but to assess the situation. Harper stood slowly, placing himself between the Queen and her guards. He raised his hands in a gesture of peace. "I mean no harm," he said firmly, hoping his tone carried across the distance. The guards hesitated. They spoke in sharp clicks and whistles, a language Harper could not understand. He noticed the Queen watching him, her expression unreadable. Then she moved forward slightly, raising her head in a commanding gesture. The guards froze, listening to her. She did not order him harmed, only studied him. Harper realized then that his actions had begun to matter, not just to her, but to her people as well. The Queen approached Harper cautiously, and he stepped back slightly to give her space. She touched his arm lightly, a gesture that seemed to communicate approval. The guards watched, their suspicion mixed with uncertainty. Harper felt a thrill of cautious hope. This small human had earned a place in the eyes of the alien Queen. As the day wore on, Harper and the Queen established a fragile routine. He tended to her needs, shared food and water, and continued using his knowledge of human medicine to stabilize her injuries. She observed silently, sometimes testing him with subtle gestures, sometimes simply resting. Harper learned to read her movements, to anticipate her needs, and to act with care. By evening, the storm had passed completely. The valley was calm, bathed in the gentle glow of alien flora. Harper sat beside the Queen, exhausted but satisfied. He had risked everything to save her life, and now he could see the beginnings of trust forming. Even the guards, still at a distance, seemed less hostile than before. The Queen stirred, her voice low and melodic. Harper listened carefully, not understanding the words but sensing meaning. There was acknowledgement there, respect, and perhaps something more, a recognition that this human had done what no other being had dared. He smiled, offering her a gesture of reassurance. Night fell over the valley, and Harper remained vigilant. He knew the Queen's recovery was far from complete, and that the challenges ahead would be greater than anything he had faced. But for now, they were safe, and in that safety, Harper saw the potential for something extraordinary. Humans were capable of bravery, compassion, and ingenuity, even in worlds far from their own. As he watched over the Queen, Harper felt a sense of purpose unlike anything he had known. He was not just an explorer or a soldier. He was a human who had crossed barriers, saved a life, and begun to earn the trust of one of the galaxy's most powerful beings. And somewhere deep within her alien mind, the Queen understood it too. This human was unlike any she had encountered before, resilient, clever, and unafraid. He had saved her life, not for reward, not for glory, but simply because he could. For the first time, the Queen considered the possibility that humans were more than mere creatures of curiosity. They could be allies, protectors, even friends. And Captain Elias Harper, who sat faithfully by her side as the alien night settled over the valley, was the living proof. The valley had grown quiet, the glow of alien flora painting the ground in soft, shifting colors. Captain Elias Harper watched the Queen move slowly, testing her strength. She could now stand on her own for short periods, though her movements remained careful. Harper had hoped that with her recovery they could leave this hidden place, but news traveled faster than he expected. High above, on the cliffs, the Queen's guards had gathered. They spoke in rapid clicks and whistles, their tone urgent, suspicious. Harper had noticed them watching from a distance, and he knew that soon they would descend to demand answers. He had no weapons to confront them, no authority in their world. All he had was his mind and his human courage. It began when a group of guards approached cautiously, led by a tall, armored figure Harper assumed was second in command. They stopped at the edge of the valley, their glowing eyes scanning him, the Queen, and the plants that filled the area. Harper raised his hand slowly, a gesture of peace. "I'm not here to harm anyone," he said clearly. "I help the Queen, that is all." The guards responded with a series of sharp clicks. Harper did not understand their language, but the tone was clear, doubt and anger. They stepped forward, surrounding him and the Queen. Harper realized that reasoning alone would not be enough. He needed to show them his intentions through action, not words. The queen stepped forward, her golden body shimmering in the soft light. She raised her head high, her wings unfurling slightly. The guards paused, recognizing her authority. Harper sensed her silent message: trust him or risk chaos. He nodded, understanding the unspoken bond forming between them. The lead guard approached, speaking more urgently. Harper studied him carefully. Humans could not fight these aliens physically, at least not without losing. But Harper had always believed that the human mind was the strongest weapon of all. He gestured toward the queen, then to himself, then to the valley. Slowly, deliberately, he demonstrated how he had carried her, how he had cared for her wounds, and how he had protected her from the storm and predators. The guards watched silently, their postures softening slightly. Harper saw a flicker of curiosity in their eyes. He continued, showing them the plants and their properties, explaining in simple gestures how he had helped stabilize her health. The queen's presence reinforced his words. She did not resist. She did not retreat. She only observed. Hours passed in tense silence. The guards communicated in clicks and whistles among themselves, occasionally glancing at Harper. He remained patient, standing his ground, letting his actions speak for him. Finally, the lead guard lowered his weapon slightly and made a slow, deliberate gesture to the queen. She responded with a subtle nod. Harper realized that this was their way of accepting him for now, though full trust would take longer. But peace was fragile. Word of the queen's vulnerability had reached others, those who sought to seize power while she was weak. Harper noticed strange movements in the distance. A second group of aliens, armed and purposeful, approaching the valley from the opposite side. They were not her guards. They were usurpers, ready to take advantage of the queen's weakened state. Harper acted without hesitation. He guided the queen to a safer position, further into the valley, behind a thick cluster of glowing plants. Then he prepared traps using rocks, vines, and other natural materials. It was crude, but effective. He knew that his human ingenuity might be the only thing standing between them and disaster. The usurpers arrived, their movements confident and hostile. Harper stepped forward, hands raised. "I don't want to fight," he said firmly, "but I will protect the queen." They laughed, or at least, Harper assumed it was laughter from the sounds they made. Then they advanced. Harper triggered his traps, releasing rocks that tumbled down the slopes, entangling some of the intruders and causing confusion. The queen's presence, strong and commanding despite her injuries, intimidated others. Together, human strategy and alien authority created a defense no one had expected. When the confrontation ended, the usurpers had retreated, their plan foiled. The queen moved toward Harper, her steps steady now, her golden body gleaming. She reached out and touched his arm, a gesture of respect and gratitude. Harper realized then that trust had deepened, not just between him and the queen, but between him and her people. Yet Harper knew this was only the beginning. The alien political system was complex, full of factions and power struggles. One victory did not guarantee safety. The queen's position was still vulnerable, and by extension, so was he. But he also knew that humans had a unique advantage: the ability to think differently, to adapt quickly, to solve problems in ways no alien could predict. In the following days, Harper worked closely with the queen, continuing her recovery and learning her ways. He observed her rituals, her methods of communication with her guards, and the subtle cues that signaled approval or disapproval. Harper was careful to respect her culture, even as he introduced small human innovations to improve safety and efficiency. For example, he taught the queen's guards simple strategies for patrolling the valley that used their natural strengths more effectively. He also created hidden signals using light reflections from bioluminescent plants, allowing communication over long distances without alerting potential threats. The aliens were cautious at first, but they began to notice the results. Harper's ideas worked. They saved time, prevented unnecessary conflicts, and strengthened the Queen's security. As the Queen regained her full strength, she began to test Harper more actively. She challenged his decisions, questioned his methods, and even staged mock scenarios to observe his reactions. Harper welcomed these tests. They were opportunities to demonstrate human ingenuity, courage, and ethics. In every situation, he relied on quick thinking and careful observation, solving problems in ways no one else could. One evening, as the twin suns set and the valley glowed with the soft light of bioluminescent plants, the Queen finally spoke in words Harper could not understand, but the tone was unmistakable. Respect, approval, perhaps even admiration. She touched his arm, then stepped back, allowing him to stand freely beside her. Harper felt a quiet pride. Humans were proving themselves capable, not through strength alone, but through intelligence, courage, and empathy. But danger was never far away. Rumors of Harper's presence spread among rival factions. Some saw him as a threat, others as a tool to manipulate the Queen. Harper realized that the next challenge would not be the creatures of the cliffs or the storms of Varali's 7, but the politics of an alien world. And he would have to navigate it carefully, relying on everything he had learned, everything humans were capable of. The next day, the Queen summoned her most trusted council. Harper was invited to attend, not as a servant, but as an observer. He watched as the council debated fiercely, their clicks and whistles rising in volume and intensity. Some accused the Queen of weakness, some questioned Harper's presence, and others seemed genuinely curious about the human who had saved their leader. Harper remained calm, watching and learning, waiting for the right moment. When the Queen spoke, her words were measured and commanding. She acknowledged Harper's role in her survival, describing his actions as brave, intelligent, and honorable. Some members of the council still hesitated, but the majority accepted her judgment. Harper realized then that humans had something no alien culture had fully appreciated: the combination of courage, ingenuity, and ethical action. One person could change the course of events simply by acting rightly. As the meeting ended, the Queen approached Harper. She spoke again in soft clicks, and he sensed her meaning clearly. There would be more challenges, more political tests, and perhaps even attempts to remove her from power. But she trusted him to stand by her, to act wisely, and to demonstrate the value of humanity to her people. Harper nodded, understanding the responsibility he had accepted. That night, Harper sat outside the valley, looking at the twin moons of Varali's 7. He reflected on everything that had happened: the storm, the rescue, the recovery, the political intrigue. Humans had proven themselves capable in ways few could have imagined. Harper felt a sense of determination. The challenges ahead would be great, but he knew that humans were not easily defeated. Courage, ingenuity, and compassion could overcome even the most complex threats. Deep in the valley, the Queen watched him from a distance. Her golden body shimmered in the moonlight, and Harper could feel her presence, her awareness. Somewhere within her, respect and understanding had grown into something stronger, a recognition that humans could be allies, protectors, and perhaps even leaders in ways her species had never considered. The storm had passed, but new challenges were already on the horizon. Harper knew that. He also knew that humanity had proven its worth, not through weapons or numbers, but through action, intelligence, and heart. And as the twin moons rose over the glowing valley, he felt ready to face whatever came next. The central ceremonial arena of the Queen's citadel loomed before them, carved from shimmering stone and illuminated by the bioluminescent patterns embedded in the walls. It was a place of judgment, challenge, and tradition, a stage where disputes were settled and loyalty tested. Captain Elias Harper stood beside the Queen, feeling the weight of the moment. This was the final test, not just of her trust, but of humanity itself. The council of elders gathered, forming a ring around the arena. their glowing eyes fixed on Harper, flicking from him to the Queen. Whistles and clicks filled the air, a complex language of command, judgment, and scrutiny. Harper understood little of their words, but the tone was unmistakable. This was a challenge of worth, of courage, and of honor. The Queen stepped forward, golden limbs gleaming. She raised her voice, a melodic, commanding sound, and the arena fell silent. Harper could sense the weight of her words even without understanding them fully. The council accepted the challenge. Harper would face the trial, demonstrating human capability in a way that the aliens could not doubt. Harper's heart raced, but he stood tall. He had faced storms, predators, and political intrigue, and he had survived. He had saved a queen, earned her trust, and shown human ingenuity. Now all of that would be tested in front of her people. The trial began. Harper was presented with 3 obstacles, each designed to test a different quality: courage, intelligence, and ethics. The first was a series of physical challenges: narrow ledges over chasms, sudden drops, and shifting platforms. Harper moved carefully, calculating each step, using his knowledge of physics and balance. Unlike the alien participants, who relied on instinct and strength, Harper combined observation with human ingenuity, finding ways to move efficiently and safely. As he completed the physical challenges, the council murmured. Some members leaned forward, intrigued by his methods. Harper noticed that even the Queen's rivals could not hide their astonishment. Humans were unpredictable, and unpredictability could be powerful. The second challenge tested intelligence. Harper was presented with a complex puzzle, a combination of symbols, light patterns, and moving parts. The puzzle required observation, pattern recognition, and reasoning under pressure. Harper studied it carefully, using logic and deduction. Slowly, he manipulated the pieces, aligning symbols and activating mechanisms in sequence. The puzzle solved itself through a combination of patience and ingenuity, revealing a hidden path forward. The council's eyes widened. Some aliens had never seen anyone solve the puzzle so quickly. Harper realized then that intelligence was as potent as strength in this world. The Queen's presence beside him reinforced the moment, her gaze expressing approval, recognition, and something deeper: pride. The final challenge tested ethics. Harper was placed in a scenario where he could gain an immediate advantage at the cost of another being's safety, a situation designed to reveal true character. Many would have seized the opportunity, but Harper paused. He assessed the situation, evaluated the consequences, and chose a path that ensured fairness and protection for all, even those who might have opposed him. The council reacted with shock, then admiration. Harper's decision demonstrated not only cleverness and bravery but moral integrity, qualities the aliens valued highly, though rarely seen in outsiders. The Queen moved closer, her golden eyes meeting his, acknowledging the significance of his choice. When the trial ended, Harper stood before the council, breathing steadily despite exhaustion. The arena was silent for a moment, as if the entire assembly were processing what they had witnessed. Then the Queen stepped forward, her voice carrying across the space. She proclaimed Harper's worth, his courage, intelligence, and ethics. He had proven that humans were capable of greatness, not just as explorers or warriors, but as beings worthy of trust and respect. The council members shifted, some still hesitant but most acknowledging the truth. Harper had achieved what few could. He had earned not only the Queen's trust but the recognition of her people. They saw that humans were adaptable, clever, and honorable, qualities that could make them allies, protectors, and even leaders in unforeseen ways. Outside the arena, Harper felt the weight of the journey lift slightly. From the storm-swept cliffs to the glowing valley, from the Queen's recovery to navigating political intrigue, he had faced every challenge with courage and ingenuity. And now, humanity itself had been recognized in a world far beyond their own. The Queen approached Harper, her movements graceful and deliberate. She extended a limb in a gesture of respect, something akin to a handshake, though entirely alien in form. Harper accepted it, feeling the significance of the moment. It was a bond forged through action, trust, and shared struggle. "Your people will remember this," he said softly, though he did not expect her to understand the words. She responded with a series of clicks, melodic and deliberate, and Harper understood. She did. The message was clear. Humans were no longer merely visitors or curiosities. They were participants, worthy of respect and capable of extraordinary deeds. The celebration that followed was unlike anything Harper had experienced. Aliens who had once doubted him observed quietly, then gradually approached, offering gestures of approval. They examined the tools he had used, the strategies he had devised, and the ways he had acted ethically under pressure. Harper answered questions through demonstrations, showing how humans could solve problems creatively, act bravely, and uphold moral principles even in extreme circumstances. By the end of the day, the Queen's people had a new understanding of humans. Harper's actions had not only saved a life, but had bridged the gap between species. The humans who had accompanied him were welcomed cautiously, their presence now seen as an opportunity rather than a threat. As night fell over the citadel, Harper stood atop a high balcony, overlooking the glowing city below. The twin moons reflected off the shimmering stone, casting soft light across the alien architecture. The Queen joined him, her presence a quiet reassurance. For the first time, Harper felt a sense of completion, a feeling that the trials, the challenges, and the risks had led to something meaningful. "You've shown them what we can be," Harper said quietly, more to himself than to her. The Queen tilted her head, golden eyes reflecting the moons. Though she did not speak human words, her meaning was clear. Yes, humans were more than they had believed, and one human, Captain Elias Harper, had proven it. In the following weeks, Harper worked with the Queen to strengthen her rule and protect her people. He introduced simple human innovations, methods of organizing patrols, ways to detect and deter threats, and strategies to resolve conflicts without violence. The aliens were cautious at first, but they soon realized that these methods were effective, and the Queen's rule became more secure than ever. Harper also spent time learning from the Queen. He studied alien customs, observed their ways of thinking, and gained insight into a culture vastly different from his own. Yet despite the differences, he found common ground. Courage, ingenuity, and the desire to protect and thrive were universal. The final test, Harper realized, had not been about surviving a storm, solving a puzzle, or navigating politics. It had been about proving that humans could rise to challenges with strength of mind, heart, and spirit. And he had done so, not for recognition, not for glory, but because it was the right thing to do. One evening, as the twin moons rose high, Harper and the Queen stood on the balcony together, looking out over the city. The glowing lights of the alien structures twinkled like stars below, and Harper felt a profound sense of hope. Humanity had earned its place in this distant world. Humans could be trusted, respected, and admired. And in a universe full of uncertainty, courage and integrity remained humanity's greatest strengths. The Queen reached out again, touching Harper's arm in a silent gesture of respect and acknowledgement. It was more than gratitude, it was recognition, a bond that transcended language and species. Harper smiled, understanding fully. Humans had proven themselves. One human had made a difference. And through that single act of courage, the future of interstellar relations had been changed forever. Harper took a deep breath, feeling the cool night air on his face. He had faced storms, political threats, and the unknown, and emerged stronger. He had saved a life, earned trust, and demonstrated the power of human courage and ingenuity. And as he stood beside the alien Queen, looking out over a world that had once seemed impossible to navigate, He knew that humans could rise to any challenge, even in the farthest reaches of the galaxy. The stars above twinkled, distant and constant, but Harper knew that humanity had left its mark. One human's courage, compassion, and cleverness had bridged worlds, saved a queen, and proven that humans were capable of greatness in ways no one could deny. And the queen, golden and magnificent, gazed at him with understanding. In her eyes he saw something profound: respect, trust, and the promise of a future where humans and aliens could work together, not as conquerors and subjects, but as equals, allies, and friends. For Captain Elias Harper, that was more than victory. It was proof that humanity, with all its flaws and strengths, could shine brightly, even in the most alien of worlds.